Welcome to Living Well with MS Coffee Break, a part of the Living Well with MS podcast family from Overcoming MS, the world's leading multiple sclerosis healthy lifestyle charity, celebrating its 10th year of serving the MS community. I'm your host, Jeff Alex. Today, you'll meet someone living with MS from our diverse and global Overcoming MS community. Our Coffee Break series invites you into the lives of each guest. They share their personal MS journeys and speak openly about their challenges and victories, large and small. We hope you find some common cause and a source of inspiration from the stories of these very special people. You can check out our show notes for more information and useful links. You can find these on our website at overcomingms.org/podcast. If you enjoy the show, please spread the word about us on your social media channels or leave a review wherever you tune into our podcast. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to Living Well with MS on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. So, get your favourite beverage ready and let's meet today's guest on Living Well with MS Coffee Break. Welcome to Living Well with MS Coffee Break number 32, where we are pleased to welcome Regina Beach as our guest. Regina is an American living in the Welsh Valleys with her British husband. She was diagnosed with relapse-remitting MS in April 2021 and adopted the Overcoming MS program shortly thereafter. She is a yoga teacher and writer who regularly leads workshops and publishes poetry and essays. She enjoys cooking and is writing an oil-free vegan cookbook with her husband. She also works part-time as the Trust and Community Fundraising Manager for Overcoming MS. Prior to diagnosis, she was an avid long-distance cycler. Her goal is to feel strong enough and balanced enough to get back in the saddle. Regina, welcome to Living Well with MS Coffee Break. We're very glad to have you on our programme. So the purpose of this series is to get a better understanding of the members of our community from around the world, and today you're in the hot seat. So could you tell us a bit about your day-to-day life?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff, for having me. I am American, but I do live in the UK. So my day-to-day life takes place in South Wales, where I am a writer, a yoga teacher, and I also work part-time for Overcoming MS as the Trust and Community Fundraising Manager, which means I help people who want to do a charity bike ride or a race, or if they want to sell something or raise funds for OMS, I help in whatever way, sending out swag, helping promote and advertise, and working with some really cool OMSers doing amazing things. In terms of my day-to-day, I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS in April 2021, so not that long ago. And so I am still kind of in the middle of figuring out what works best for me and how to fully embrace the OMS lifestyle. I jumped in right away about a month after diagnosis. I found the website, devoured it, and soon after got the book, read it, joined the Facebook group, and I really feel like this is the pathway back to health or to living as well as I possibly can for me.
So how was it being diagnosed mid-COVID pandemic? I'm guessing that's made a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, because I really put off getting the tingles in my feet checked out for a long time. You know, I wasn't really in pain. I wasn't really having mobility issues. I was just having lots of numbness in my feet. And since I had been extra active in 2019, I did 2019 miles swimming, biking, and running. I thought I was just like experiencing some overuse, residual something. And I really put it off. And it wasn't until my acupuncturist was like, your cold, tingly feet, really, I haven't been able to do anything about this. I really think you should go to your GP and get some blood work done. And I'm really glad that she said that, because I think, especially for people who like to tough it out or who are used to doing physical things and maybe having their body like having to adjust to stuff, I really wasn't thinking that I had something neurologically wrong with me. And so then obviously it took a little bit of time to, check. I didn't have low B12. I didn't have low iron. my GP thought maybe I had a pinched nerve and just ordered a cervical MRI and then eventually a full MRI. And then I ended up in the hospital for a week because I was having, I guess, a big relapse where I really had some terrible symptoms and was losing mobility and ended up with the diagnosis about a year after I really first started having those tingles. So I do feel like I'm getting good care now, but I feel like the road to finding that diagnosis and really like finding my way in was definitely prolonged because of the pandemic.
And I think MS is a difficult one anyway, because it's not like we have a key symptom. Like most things you can say, yeah, that's likely to be that because you've got this key symptom. We're like, well, actually, it could be anything. It's like, your nerves do everything in your body, and we've got a problem with our nerves. So it could be people got eye problems, walking problems, bladder problems, temperature problems, pins and needles problems, and they're all MS. So yeah, it's really difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't necessarily think of, oh, I need to pee all the time as being connected to this idea that the grip in my left hand is not as strong as it used to be. You don't make that connection naturally, I think, because MS symptoms can run the gamut.
Yeah. So when did you come across that OMS? How did you find out about OMS, and how did that go for you?
My whole life I've said, if I ever get really sick, like kind of jokingly, I'm just going to become a monk and be a vegan and live in the woods. And so obviously, one of the first things I Googled was what's the best diet for MS, because I understand that what we put into our body is the molecules that we become. And so I thought, okay, someone has got to have been doing research on this. And so I came across Swank and then came across Jelinek. And then the evidence was just so compelling to me. I, spent a month like researching recipes, getting rid of stuff in the fridge, overhauling things. My husband's been really wonderful and has changed his diet too. So we cook together. We're writing down our recipes and compiling a cookbook. We have an Instagram where we post recipes. It's been really fun. And it's been a huge change because I used to really love cheese and dairy, and my husband used to be big into smoking meats and grilling meats. And so we've just done a 180 with our meals, and it's really helpful to have somebody to co-plan with and cook with. Like last night we had some smoked fish and veg, and it's actually really amazing what you can do cooking without oil that I had no idea was possible. So I'm actually really happy that we found this. I think he's a triathlon and has found a lot of benefits from the diet portion of overcoming MS as well. And I've always been a meditator of sorts, but now I feel like it's really key, and I definitely carve out the time more than I used to for that component. And I do take a DMT, and I'm hopeful that with everything together, I'll get some more mobility back, because I walk currently with 2 sticks, and I'm really hoping to one day be able to walk without a mobility aid.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to ask, actually. So you're listed as having a significant disability on the EDSS scale. So what's 2 sticks? That's somewhere up like 4.5, 5 or something on the scale.
Yeah, so I don't leave the house without at least 1 stick, and it really just depends on how my balance is feeling that day. And sometimes, like if we're at a museum or if I'm like out and about in like a big public arena, like I've used a wheelchair before, just because walking long distances is really tough for me. And that was really heartbreaking, because it was something that, like hiking and long distance trekking, is something that's been a really important part of my life up to this point. Like I did the Camino de Santiago, and I've done a lot of long distance cycle trips across Europe and Asia and North America. And I feel really lucky that I was able to do those things. But yeah, so being in this new body of mine that doesn't function the same way and is really slow, and I have foot drop on the left side, and it's really a big adjustment, and I don't think I'm totally there. Like I dream of running sometimes, or like I dream that I, can walk,
like literally in your dream,
like literally in my
no, I have
dreams.
that as well. And it's like, some people say, oh, does that make you sad because you've lost it? And it's actually, no, when you sort of like half wake up and you're like just sort of coming out of a dream, if I'm getting back to sleep, I'd love to get back into that dream again, the one where I'm running around.
Yes.
It's like memories of what used to, and very similar stuff. I used to sort of like do a lot of like mountain walking and hiking and cycling and stuff. But the things now that I think would be an amazing achievement, whereas before it would be like climbing Mont Blanc or something. Now it's like, so for where you are, like Penny Fan or something like that. I mean, if I could do something like that, or Snowdon, or one of the, like something that's not a hard mountain, that would be such an achievement for me. I mean, I don't know if it's achievable because I'm not really. I'm similar levels. I'd always take a stick when I go out, but I'm not ruling out that I can get a bit better. And
that's how I feel.
There's people that I've come across who have, but equally, I just think those aids as well. They're not disabling; they're enabling. So using like mobility aids, and I think, and certainly, so I've got an e-trike that I kind of use partly also as a mobility scooter sometimes, because I can just put it like a walk mode and just like trundle along. Because I just the distances is the problem really. Whereas I'd love to go on a city break before and just wander around all day, but now
I love that. Yes, where you're just like walking miles and miles and seeing all the things, and now you have to be a little more deliberate about where you're going to go, how long is it going to take, and where can you take a rest. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. So I was really nervous to take like a first international trip since having mobility issues, but my husband and I went to Egypt over Christmas and New Year's, and it was amazing how much we were able to do and how accommodating people are when you just explain the situation, and how much people want to like help and make things as easy as possible. So, we did a snorkeling trip, and everyone on the boat was super helpful, because that is like someone who has balance issues nightmare, is to like walk around on a boat.
Yeah, no, I've been scuba diving twice since I've had MS. I've been scuba diving in Costa Rica and in Thailand, and because I used to scuba dive a lot, but actually I thought, well, why not? Because there's not a balance issue.
Yeah, once you're in the water, it's great.
Yeah, and actually when you're scuba diving, you don't really like, it's not a lot of exertion, because otherwise you use up all your air basically. So you're trying to do everything in a very gentle motion. So I still had the skills. And the problem is getting on and off the boat. But on the boat, because it's moving around anyway, there's loads of stuff to hold on to, because everyone's got to hold on to stuff. So it actually wasn't that bad. I could do that, and that was really cool.
And it is just about finding what you can do, and like leaning into what you can do, and making new goals, like you said. Like there's a little lake. We live right near the Kumkarn Forest Drive, and one of my goals is to make it around that whole little lake without taking a break. And that is a very small goal compared to maybe what I used to be doing, but that's fine. Like that's where I'm at right now, and I'd rather be getting out there and trying for that. And also I just really appreciate my good days, because obviously I used to take walking and running for granted, and now I'm like, oh, I feel great today. I'm definitely going to go out for a walk or for a little hike. So there's, the small joys.
Yeah. And the next question is, what are your thoughts on people with MS choosing other types of diets or lifestyle alternative to OMS?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. Since being diagnosed and disclosing my diagnosis, I've had a lot of people say, oh, I have MS too, or I have another autoimmune condition, and which I think is really interesting how much you don't know about your acquaintances. I feel like disclosing brought me really close to some people who I had no idea also had things that they were dealing with. But I also think that it's a really personal decision about how you're going to self-manage your condition. And so I've definitely had to be firm but kind in my approach, saying I'm sticking with OMS. This is what I want to do. If you want to do paleo, you want to do another diet, that's fine. I think it really comes down to how you feel and what you can stick with. And so anybody who is managing through lifestyle, I think, deserves big kudos. Like anyone who's making these big changes in their lives, whether it's adding exercise or mindfulness or, taking supplements or whatever it is. I think we're not really at odds with most of the other diets. Are mostly whole food based. They're mostly much healthier than the standard Western diet. And I think that it's, you want to be encouraging this idea that we have autonomy to make changes that aren't just dictated from a neurologist or a GP, that we can do something for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think I've spoken to people on different protocols. Matt Embry, Best Bet Diet, talked to him, and the commonality, there's more in common than there is separate. So
much more.
And with the Wiles protocol, similarly, like basically they're all non-dairy, they're all low saturated fat, they're all whole food based. Now it may be that you have organic grass-fed lean meat occasionally on Best Bet Diet. It may be that you have gluten is okay on OMS, which is not on that one. So there's little bits on the edges, but those are definitely they're not the core. The core bits are really the same. Low saturated fat whole food diet with no dairy is basically common across all of them. And I think
and even Swank had low fat meat after year one on his original diet. So which the OMS diet is built on. So there is so much that is like in that same vein.
Yeah, I think some people as well, because there's a lot of stuff with fasting now as well, which I think there's a lot of interest in fasting. And paleo diet, it's like if you cut out all your carbs, then you put your body into a fasting state. But when you talk to the neurologists about this, who are like proposing this, they're saying, oh yeah, we're not actually encouraging you to just go on an Atkins diet, because that would put you into a fasting state, but that's not actually healthy. What you want to be doing is going into a fasting state by reducing the time window you eat, or not eating for a day a week, or these different ways of doing it, and then eating a healthy lifestyle. So there's sort of like,
and not just putting yourself into ketosis for the sake of it by not consuming carbs, which are really in everything, and as long as you're eating whole grains is very, very healthy. That's what like so many cultures and indigenous people's whole diets are based on, potatoes or rice or other grains. And I think cutting them out is, like you're saying, it's not healthy for the long haul.
So to change a little bit and talk about your professional life, you were a school teacher in the US, moved to the UK and lived with your British husband, and now work part-time for OMS as the Trust and Community Fundraising Manager, as you mentioned. So how did that transition come about?
Oh my gosh, I feel like that life in Chicago when I was teaching in public schools there is a lifetime ago. I was really burnt out. It's a really tough job. I really give a lot of praise to all of the school teachers out there, especially it's still strange times, but I was really at a point in my career where I was turning into the type of teacher I didn't want to be and needed to pivot. And so I decided to take a year to do a Fulbright fellowship in Laos in Southeast Asia. And that was my last full year of teaching. I taught teacher candidates there. And that's actually where I met my now husband, who was on a motorcycle adventure through Southeast Asia and came back to visit me a couple times. And so through that process, I was really thinking like, okay, what is it that I really like? What is it that I really want to do? I did yoga teacher training. I became a lot more interested in mindfulness and moving meditation, and I pivoted back to my first love, which was writing. I studied journalism in university and really decided, okay, I want to pursue writing. And so some of my work with Overcoming MS is grant writing and blog writing and press releases. And I also write essays and poetry in my own time. And so I'm just trying to carve out a life that's more reflective of my values and what I really enjoy and what I want to spend my time doing. And I was kind of already in that mode when I was diagnosed, but since diagnosis, it's been even more acute that, the time I have, I want to spend it focusing on the things that I really enjoy and the things where I feel like I can make a big difference.
So OMS is celebrating its 10th birthday this year, and you've got some special events upcoming. There's various OMS birthday trivias, OMS big picnics, and other events. So could you tell us a bit about the events upcoming?
Yeah, so we're really excited to celebrate a decade of the charity promoting the OMS program for people worldwide. And so, yes, the big picnic is a great way to get family, friends, your circle involved in and some outdoor fun, a barbecue maybe, bringing OMS compliant foods, teaching people about what the diet pillar is about and why, and possibly even doing some fundraising for the charity. And we are going to do a big birthday quiz on Zoom this year. So that will be really fun, having people answer questions both about the program and also some just fun trivia stuff. And so this year is really important because 10 years ago, Linda Bloom decided that the OMS program needed kind of a cheerleader. I feel like the organization is a mouthpiece to help deliver the content and help people who have MS understand that there are thousands of us who are living better because we're self-managing through the program. So if you would like to get involved, email fundraising@overcomingms.org, and we're really excited to celebrate. We're celebrating the launch of the new brand. We're celebrating what we're moving towards in the future, and hopefully it will be another 10 years of growth and expansion, and great food and great fun.
So my next question straddles personal and professional. So you're a devout yoga and meditation practitioner, which you also teach. So could you tell us a bit about how that's helped you, how that yoga and meditation side of things has helped you, and share some tips to others about how they could get into a daily meditation practice?
Yeah, for sure. So I used to teach a very yang, very physical style of yoga, the 26-2 or Bikram series, which is done in a 40-degree Celsius hot room, which I can't do anymore because heat really exacerbates my symptoms, and a lot of the standing series involves so much balance that is just out of reach for me right now. So I really have had to adjust my practice and my teaching from this really intense asana side to a much more gentle, more yin, more long holds, more floor-based yoga. And so that was really tough for me at first because obviously this is something I've been doing. I took my first yoga class when I was in university. I was 18 years old. It's been with me for a long time. And I'm trying to see it as I have all of these years of experience, but now I have a beginner's body where I can't necessarily do all of the things that I used to do. And I'm like now reteaching myself. And so coming at it from that perspective, I feel has been really helpful because it's just like being curious about what can I do today, being curious about how does my body feel today, and leaning into that and saying like, okay, this is how I feel. This is what I can do. This is how much I can do. And just like letting the rest go. And that's where the mindfulness and meditation come in, because we cannot force ourselves to do something that we're not able to, and that doesn't necessarily have to lead to frustration. I think that piece is so crucial when you are able to accept where you are at today, then everything just floats a little better and we're a little more at ease. I think you can do meditation no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing yoga, whether you're just like sitting mindfully, whether you're drinking tea mindfully, whether you're just taking a nice walk and observing the birds and the trees. I think all of that is just, what can I do? Where am I now? How am I feeling in my body? All of that is mindfulness. And I'm just appreciating where I'm at and what I can do, and moving towards little goals, to improve my balance, to improve my flexibility, and not necessarily treating my old body as the goal, because I might not be able to do all of those yoga asanas in the future, and that's fine. That doesn't mean I can't deepen my practice. And for a while I was thinking like, well, does this make me a terrible yoga teacher if I can't do all of these poses? And I've come to the realization that like, people don't actually care if their yoga teacher can do fancy arm balances. What they care about is if their yoga teacher can meet them where they're at and help them find comfort and like ease in a little bit of stretch and relaxation in their own body. And so that's also been just a new version of my yoga practice and my yoga teaching.
Yeah. I mean, Usain Bolt's coach is not a world record runner, so you can teach without being at that level, can't you?
Exactly.
So thank you so much for joining us on the Living Well with MS coffee break, and allowing the community to get to know you a bit better. So there's one last question that we have that we tend to always ask people, which is that if you could tap into your experience with MS generally and OMS specifically for a nugget of wisdom to help people, particularly if they're new to the OMS program, what would that be?
I think really planning out who you're going to tell and how and what you need from those people you tell is really important, because for as strong as we all are, you need a community behind you. So whether you're going to lean on your circle or your family or your friends, I think having a plan and knowing how you're going to react when someone doubts that what you're doing is helpful. Because I think as a newly diagnosed person, it can be really like crushing to hear someone say, oh, there's no proof for that, or there's no, why are you doing that? That's, pseudoscience, or whatever the negative. We always remember the negative more than the positive. And so building a community of trusted people, of people who are supporting what you're doing and having ways to deflect any naysayers would just go a long way, because the mental health aspect of having MS is no joke, and it takes a village to keep people, moving forward and living well and taking care of all of these different components of the lifestyle. But we can do it, and we can do it together. And I think things like the podcast and the circles and all of the wonderful OMSers really do support one another. I think that's the best part of this program, is the community.
Thank you. And thank you very much for joining us, Regina Beach. And thank you for all your work that you do with OMS as well.
Thanks, Jeff. It was great to talk to you today.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Living Well with MS Coffee Break. Please check out this episode's show notes at overcomingms.org/podcast. You'll find all sorts of useful links and bonus information there. Do you have questions about this episode, or do you or someone you know want to be featured in a future Coffee Break episode? Then email us at podcast@overcomingms.org. We'd love to hear from you. You can also subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Living Well with MS Coffee Break is kindly supported by a grant from the Happy Charitable Trust. If you'd like to support the Overcoming MS charity and help keep our podcast advertising free, you can donate online at overcomingms.org/donate. To learn more about Overcoming MS and its array of free content and programs, including webinars, recipes, exercise guides, OMS circles, our global network of community support groups, and more, please visit our website at overcomingms.org. While you're there, don't forget to register for our monthly e-newsletter so you can stay informed about the podcast and other news and updates from Overcoming MS. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you next time. The Living Well with MS family of podcasts is for private, non-commercial use and exists to educate and inspire our community of listeners. We do not offer medical advice. For medical advice, please contact your doctor or other licensed healthcare professional. Our guests are carefully selected, but all opinions they express are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Overcoming MS charity, its affiliates, or staff.